Happy I am to say that my time in mental hospital extremely helpful was. Answers close at hand were seeming.
Welcome to the Dreams of Consciousness podcast. If you'd be so kind, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hello, I'm Dan, and I'm the frontman for the band Sergeant Thunderhoof.
And how would you describe the music of Sergeant Thunderhoof?
Well, we get lumped into the stoner doom kind of genre. We do have elements of that, but generally I'd say we're a hard rock band with kind of psychedelic influences in there as well.
Now, was there a period in the past where you were much more comfortable being referred to as a stoner rock band or a stoner metal band?
Having that tag doesn't bother any of us because we all like that music, but we've all got varied influences and likes. So no, it's never bothered us. I suppose the music has just kind of taken its own kind of direction. So people say that we're in that kind of stoner scene, so that's cool with us. But personally, I would suggest we're more of a classic rock band than anything.
Let's give the listeners some background to your band. Tell me a little bit about when you formed and what brought you guys together.
Well, myself, bassist Jim, and the drummer Darren, we were in bands many years ago. Back in the late 90s, we were playing in bands, and so we've always kind of been around each other, and we've kind of gone our own ways and done separate bands. And back in 2013, we decided to just meet up for a jam with a guitarist called Mark Sayer, who I was in a bar band with. And it was just a case of getting in a room, making some noise, because we'd all been doing kind of other stuff. And we kind of wanted to go back to that, just kind of seeing what happens in a room, turning the amps up and not really caring. Because I think before that, obviously, I mean, I'm in my late 30s now. So when we were in bands growing up, we had that kind of dream of making it big and all that kind of stuff. And once that went away and once the ego kind of dissipated, you kind of just want to have fun and see what happens. So that's kind of the reason for the band starting. It was just to have a bit of fun.
Where did the name Sergeant Thunderhoof come from?
We were trying to think of a name for a long time, and all the names we came up with, not to sound like Lars Ulrich from Metallica, but they were very stock. It just sounded a lot of the names just sounded like we were trying too hard, or it just, a lot of the bands in that kind of stoner doom scene, they've all got that type of obvious name, and wasn't really what we were interested in. And I've always liked bands who kind of use an imagery or a character or something other than the band to portray the music, because I've never been comfortable with my photo being taken, or I'm not much of a poser in terms of that kind of thing. I like the kind of imagery to kind of take over, like Iron Maiden do. Over the years they've used Eddie to kind of be that kind of figurehead for their band. So I suggested maybe we have a character that we use, and literally I think someone said something like Captain Thunderhoof, just funny, and then Sergeant Thunderhoof just stuck. And obviously since then we have built a backstory for the character, and we fleshed out the kind of thematic ideas of it. But it was literally just over a cup of tea and just came out of someone's mouth.
Does the character Sergeant Thunderhoof appear on your album covers the way that Eddie or Vic Rattlehead does?
Yes, he appears on the first full-length album, Ride of the Hoof. He's on the front cover riding a horse. On the first album cover, there's a character which is kind of like the female goddess, which we keep referring back to in all of our songs. She appears a couple of times. So all the artwork is all done by the same artist. And we like to keep a running theme. We want everything to kind of feel like it's part of the same family, but it's another step on the journey. So yeah, it is very important to us, the whole imagery of it.
At this point, you've released 2 albums and a number of EPs. How would you describe the progression, or let's say your musical journey over the course of your releases?
I suppose, looking back at our first EP, Ziggurat, which I don't know why we called it an EP, to be honest, because it is 40 minutes long, so it's basically an album, but we called it an EP at the time. So that was very much just the music that we had then, that we just recorded. And since then, obviously, it was since that point that the concept kind of started to take off. So lyrically, I was kind of thinking of in terms of, where's this character going to go next, and what's the next evolution of it. Musically, I think we have matured a bit musically, and we're not afraid to try different things or to do anything that. I think the issue we have, we don't have an issue, but One of the things we're aware of in this whole doom stoner desert kind of scene is there are a number of bands who tend to kind of stick to the formula, and to my ears that gets kind of boring, and I get kind of tired of listening to that. So we were very much conscious that we wanted to explore all of our influences and not be afraid to do something which might stick out a little bit or might run the risk of, upsetting some of our fans. I think that's one of the reasons a lot of our fans kind of get into what we do, because we are quite varied in that regard.
I'm not that familiar with your music, but I did get a chance to listen to a number of your releases. Would you say that the psychedelic elements have become more prominent on the most recent releases?
I'd say, yeah, possibly. I think we've become a little bit more operatic in a way. I think the songs are they're taking on a bit more of a ambitious kind of tone. Not so much in the sounds we're using, just in the structures. And so, yeah, there's definitely psychedelia in there. Again, not consciously, but I think my vocals, I can tend to be quite ethereal with what I'm saying, and Mark, the guitarist, has quite an uncanny way of pulling out little melodies and things which, do harken back to that kind of psychedelic prog sound of the 70s. So, yeah, I would say we have become more psychedelic, but at the same time, we've also become more song-based. So there's, we do really appreciate the value of a good song. So, yeah, a bit of both, really.
You mentioned your vocals. One of the things about Sergeant Thunderhoof that, in my opinion, separates your band from a lot of other similar bands playing, psychedelic doom or however you want to describe it, are, in fact, your vocals. I'm curious about your background and how you developed this style.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, I used to be in hardcore metal bands back in the day, so I never did that much singing back then. It was more kind of barking and shouting and screaming, that kind of thing. But over the years, I'm a big fan of big vocalists like Mike Patton and, like I said, Devin Townsend, and I'm a fan of people like Ronnie James Dio, who has a lot of character and also has that kind of operatic feel. Not that I'm comparing myself to that, but I've always aspired to kind of have that kind of range and that power. And I've just worked on it personally. I've never really. It's just, yeah. I suppose if I listen to a recording of myself from 20 years ago, I don't sound anything like I do now. So yeah, that's my background. Just being into really good vocalists, and I know I'll never get anywhere near the likes of Mike Patton, but I think it's certainly a good thing to aspire to.
Did you take any kind of training or classes or anything like that?
I had one lesson, one 20-minute lesson when I was about 17, so about 20 years ago. But that was more about my breathing. But no, I've never had any formal tuition with regards to my vocals. But because I've been around music for over 20 years, and I run my own studio as well, so I'm kind of in the business. I am around very good people, so I'm always picking up little bits from what other people are doing, and I think that helps a lot.
Let's talk a little bit about the writing process and how you guys put songs together. Do you work as a band? I understand that you're the front man, so do you contribute to the music, or do you wait until the songs are done before your input comes in?
Yeah, most of the time, I'd say about 80% of what we do, we come up with in the room together. So someone will start playing a riff, or we'll just start jamming, and maybe something might sound good, and then we'll work on that. My contributions, I'm particularly good at structuring songs and knowing where a song should go and how long a bit should be and where it should progress. So one thing that we tend to do, which was really beneficial for us, is we record all our practices just on a little stereo mic, and I will go away after the end of the practice and I'll chop out all the best bits and I'll send them to the band, just ideas, and we'll stick them in a little online folder, just so we can kind of, when we're stuck for an idea, we can always just open up that folder and try and pluck a riff out from the ether. And we found that speeds up the writing process quite a lot. So everything's done together in the room. There have been a few occasions where someone like Jim or Mark have come up with a riff at home, brought it to the band. For instance, on the last album, Terra Solis, there was a song called Priestess of Misery, which Mark pretty much demoed himself in his bedroom, and then we just refined it as a band. But that was very much his inception. But I'd say 80 to 90% of the stuff we actually come up with in the room together, making noise.
Sergeant Thunderhoof is about to release a split album with Howling Giant. Tell me a little bit about this split.
Yeah, so we were contacted, must be about 18 months ago now, by a chap from Ripple, the label in America, and they were interested in teaming us up with a band called Howling Giant, who we've heard of and we really like, for a split. And to be honest, at first I was kind of like, I'm not really interested because we're very much a band interested in the story and the concept and the theme of our music, and it has to have a theme. The idea of just sticking a bunch of tracks on one side of vinyl and then sticking a bunch of tracks on the other side didn't really appeal to me. But once I got chatting to the guys in Howling Giant, I think they're very much on the same wavelength as us, and we had this idea that we could actually have a running concept and a story that they could sing one side of and we could sing the other. And then it was actually someone from Howling Giant, I think it might have been Sebastian, I can't remember, came up with this fantastic Japanese fable about the sword masters and how they could take on the role of the good, holy sword master, and we could be the evil apprentice. And I love that. And again, it fits into the universe of Sergeant Thunderhoof really well, and the artwork represents it. And so we had this idea of rather than doing a bunch of songs, we treat it a little bit like an opera with two very just long songs. So they took up 20 minutes on their vinyl, one track, and we did the same on ours. So we're really happy with how that came out, and so far the reception's been fantastic.
Tell me a little bit about the lyrical theme that inspired the split, specifically about Muramasa and the mythology behind his blades.
Well, yeah, so we were given we chose to take on the role of Muramasa, who was the evil apprentice in the fable, which really appealed to me because I didn't want to just sing about some guy who's got bloodlust and just wants to, rule the world. I wanted to try and dissect his point of view, and also I wanted to kind of take a little bit of a different angle with it, and how he should be celebrated, because the whole thing. I'll just give you a quick synopsis. You have Masamune, who is the sword master, is challenged by his apprentice Muramasa to create the sharpest blade, and they both make a sword. And Muramasa plunges his blade into a running stream, and it cuts everything. It cuts the fish, it cuts the water, it even cuts the air. And obviously he's pleased that he's created the ultimate weapon, and as opposed to Masamune's blade, which the fish swim around the blade because a wise man is watching, and he says, well, Masamune's blade is better because it chooses what to cut and what not to cut. And so obviously in the fable, Masamune comes out on top. But so I wanted to kind of take the viewpoint of Muramasa and actually say, well, hold on, his is the sharpest. So he's the winner. I'm sorry. And you may kind of scoff that his blade cuts everything, including the air. Well, that was the challenge. And if who's this wise man to say that that's not right? And so the lyrical approach in the song is, well, hold on, you're not my judge. My only judge is God, and God will judge me. And if God gave me these powers to create a blade which will cut the world in two, then I am going to cut the world in two, and God will not forsake me. It was kind of that mentality that I wanted to kind of put across. So it was an interesting thing to take on.
So, writing from the viewpoint, just to give a little bit of background, part of the mythology of Muramasa and his blades was that, allegedly, according to the legend, every time one of his blades was unsheathed, it required blood. And so somebody would have to die if the blade was used. Is that more or less the myth?
Well, that's the myth that has come after the fable, I think. So obviously, I think it's kind of like local legend that terrible things have happened to people who own a blade by Muramasa. I mean, he was a real man.
Right.
Whereas Masamune's blades have been kind of revered as sacred antiques, whereas Muramasa's blades have kind of taken on they're not the kind of thing that you would want to own. I suppose it'd be like owning a painting of Hitler, But yeah, so whether that's based in truth or not, I don't know. But obviously, things get obviously stretched and exaggerated over the centuries, don't they? So I find that really interesting.
But that's the bloodlust that you're alluding to, right? The fact that the blades require blood every time that they're used. And so obviously writing from the viewpoint of Muramasa, he would be proud of his work. He would be proud of a blade that cut everything in its path. Is that more or less the angle?
That's the angle I was taking. It's not my personal point of view, but I was
Right.
Yeah, I was trying to take on the character Muramasa and to say that, well, if God has given me these abilities to create this blade, then it should be used, and I shouldn't feel bad about it, and I shouldn't be made to feel like, that this horrible character in history, my blade should be celebrated. That was the kind of angle I was trying to take.
So we talked a little bit about your songwriting process. The song that you're contributing to this split is itself over 20 minutes. Now, tell me a little bit about the challenges of writing a song in this length, and as well as recording.
Yeah, it was a real challenge, because it's not as if we stitched 4 or 5 songs together, which I know would have been an option, but we wanted it to be one complete song. So we did have some ideas, like the opening riff was an idea that we had knocking around for probably about 12 months. And there was another riff kind of about 4 minutes in that we had. And the quiet section in the middle was something that we jammed a couple of years back. So we used those, and happily they all married together really well. But I mean, the song, it took at least 7 months to finish writing, really. And the only way we could remember what we were doing is we recorded every single iteration of what we did in the practice room, and I had a big whiteboard, and we gave each section a kind of code name, so we would know how long to stay on a section, when to move on, and I'd have a pen, and I was pointing to different bits to the rest of the band. So I mean, that's very much my kind of skill, was to kind of almost be a master of ceremonies. So that was a way of us being able to kind of, I mean, once you've through the act of repetition, the song will eventually work its way into your psyche, and you don't have to think about it, and it's just there. So, but until you record it, it's hard to get to that point. So when we came to actually recording the song, because it was so long, I think we did the song in 2 halves. I think we got to a point about 10 minutes in where we kind of we'll stop there, and then we'll play from there and stitch it together. I mean, we did want to do it all the way through, but just the sheer technical aspect of that was really difficult. But yeah, recording it was a real challenge, but it was really good fun. And we did everything live, so there was no trickery involved. And that I thought our drummer Darren did an exceptional job, because, I mean, drumming for that amount of time is no mean feat. And we didn't touch his drums; they are as is.
Wow! So you guys recorded this all in the studio together?
Well, so we played in the room together. Obviously that was primarily to get the drums down first, but we all did it together, and then we laid the bass and the guitars over the top of that. However, the bare bones of the song, the rhythm was all kind of done live. There was no cheating involved. I don't want to be disparaging of some bands, but there is a lot of drum trickery involved with a lot of bands, and that's something we want to stay well clear of. Because we don't want perfect sounding instruments, because I think that kind of goes against everything we do in this band. We don't want it to be perfect. We want it to sound like it was a moment in time. And so this track certainly is that. You've got the real grittiness from those drums and the guitars. I mean, the main body of the guitars were all done live as well. So yeah, and obviously, vocals and stuff, I'll do a number of takes. But I really tried to kind of tackle the song in one go, so I wasn't doing section by section when I was doing the vocals. I was trying to say, right, okay, let's give me this 7-minute part of the song, and I'll just belt it out in one go, and then we'll take it from there. But yeah, it was real challenge to record it.
So you mentioned you have your own studio. Did you record the song by yourself, or yourselves, I should say?
Yes, I got my own studio. We have an engineer who works here, a chap called Josh. He's a great engineer. So we've recorded all of our material at the studio, and it's just nice because it's, we feel at home here, and it's nice and relaxed, and we don't have to get too stressed looking at the clock, because money's not really an issue. So yeah, so we tend to do most of our stuff here.
So a couple of weeks ago, there was a video released for the song with animation created by John Birch. Tell me a little bit about this video and how John Birch got involved with this.
Yeah, so I was asking around some friends in the local area because I thought it'd be quite nice to have some kind of video elements of the song. And I got chatting to a chap called John Birch, who he's based in our area in Bath and Somerset, and I thought, well, it'd be nice to have something local as well. So I just got chatting to him and said, look, I know it's a big tall order, but would you fancy having to go animating something for this song, this 20-minute song? And amazingly, he turned around and said, yeah, I'd love to. And I mean, he turned that around so quick. I mean, I think it was like 3 weeks. I couldn't believe it. And he just hit the nail on the head. I mean, I gave him a synopsis of the lyrics and my point of view, which I told you earlier, and how I kind of pictured the story of Muramasa unfolding. And he absolutely just, it was perfect. So, yeah, we were so happy with that.
Yeah, 3 weeks is amazing for a 20-minute piece of animation and motion graphics. I do motion graphics and video editing professionally, and a lot of people don't realize like how time-intensive animation is. On the blog, I frequently put on like these little 10-second animations for some of the interviews, and nobody realizes that some of these, 10 seconds worth of animation sometimes takes me 3 to 4 days to put together. And I can't even imagine the amount of work it would take to put together 20 minutes of animation. So people can find the video on YouTube. I'll just describe it a little bit. He uses a lot of traditional Japanese elements. There's koi fish, there's samurai prints from the Meiji era, I believe, but traditional Japanese artwork to, as you described, to tell the story of the Muramasa blade and the challenge between the two sword makers.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, like you said, the imagery was just perfect because, I mean, I'm actually having a tattoo on my left arm at the moment of a dragon, and the kind of the traditional Japanese waves, and I was so happy that he kind of included all that in the video. And I just, like you said, I couldn't believe he managed to turn that around in 3 weeks. And it's a really, I just find it really emotional to watch it because, it being a 20-minute thing, it really kind of sucks you in, and it is quite rousing towards the end.
let's talk a little bit about Ripple Music, because up to this point, I believe you've self-released all your music. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And so this is the first time that a label is actually releasing something for you guys. What was the appeal?
Yeah, I mean, we are we're a kind of DIY band. We pretty much run our own label. Not really out of choice, but we were never really offered a deal which we thought offered value for money, if I'm honest. A lot of these record deals at the moment, they kind of pay you in kind. So you're not really a supported artist. They take your existing material, release it on a medium such as vinyl, and then pay you in stock. And no one really talks about this. And to me, I was just like, well, if we need to kind of facilitate our own music and financially support ourselves, not our personal lives, but financially support the band, we really need to have our own stock, and we need to have control of it. And also, because we've got such different situations in our personal lives, we've got family members who kind of in the at-risk category, because they've got illnesses and stuff like that. With the type of band, we can't always commit to long tours, so we'd never wanted a label to be on our backs asking us to tour and do this and that. That's not, because I mean we're too old for that anyway. We're not interested in doing toilet tours and stuff like that. So it was kind of like a decision early on. It's like, well, let's just do it ourselves and see how we get on. And it tended to work that way. But we've always been on really good terms with a lot of these labels, and we speak to them, and we've politely declined many deals. But I've known the guys at Ripple Music just through online and stuff like that for years. And a chap called Bucky Brown, who works with Ripple, suggested that we could do this project with Howling Giant. And that doesn't go against our principles at all, because, it's a great idea. It's a great concept. We've loved working with Ripple. They've been great. They've been supportive. And we're still going to continue to be an unsigned band. And I don't see that changing anytime soon. But we are happy to work with labels on special projects such as this. I mean, we did have a track there was a tribute to the Wall by Pink Floyd, which we submitted a track for a couple of years back through Magnetic Eye Records, and they did a great job. So this isn't our first time working with a label, but no, it was definitely a different experience. It was nice for me because there wasn't so much stress on my behalf, because usually I'm having to worry about the whole manufacturing side and all that kind of thing, and it was nice just to kind of submit the track and our work is done for this one.
Can we talk about the logistics of self-releasing? Almost all of your releases on your Bandcamp page are listed as name your price downloads. If I'm not mistaken, you crowdsource the physical aspects, meaning the vinyl editions of your records. Is that correct?
Yeah, on a lot of the records we've done, we usually self-finance the actual recordings. So when it comes to sticking some vinyl out, we have done a number of crowd-funded projects, which have all been successful. So we've been really happy about how that's turned out. So, and I actually I usually take quite a leading role in this, because I have quite an interest in that side of things. So, and I quite enjoy the whole process of getting the artwork, sending it off to print, or even before that, getting the music mastered, and then taking delivery of the stock, and then packing it and shipping it, and all that kind of thing. Same with all our T-shirts that we do, and I mean we ship worldwide as well. But yeah, the whole process is really time consuming. It's lucky that I work in a studio where I do have the facilities, the space, and the time to do it.
Can we talk about the name your price aspect of your releases? First of all, why did you choose to go that route?
Well, I remember the first time when we released our first EP, Ziggurat, we didn't really have a clue what we were doing anyway. I hadn't heard of Bandcamp at the time. That's the first time I come across Bandcamp, because I'd kind of not been in the scene for a while. I wasn't in like a serious band. I was just kind of having a bit of fun. But so I said to the band, I said, this is a website called Bandcamp. Should we just stick it on there? We could do Spotify and iTunes and all that as well. So and obviously they have the facility to name your price. And I thought, well, you know what? If someone wants your record and they don't want to pay for it, they'll get it. Most people have the facility to download illegally, and I know we don't want to talk about it, but let's all be honest. If someone doesn't want to pay for your stuff, they're not going to pay for it. And I would rather they have a good quality version of it than a rubbish one. If someone wants our music, I'll just let them have it. I mean, and luckily, a lot of people will pay you for it. I'm constantly amazed by the generosity of people who don't have to give us any money for it, but they do. Some guy 2 weeks ago downloaded our entire digital discography and gave us £150, and I couldn't believe it. He didn't have to do that, which I think vindicates our decision to do it. It's sad that the music itself has become valueless over the years. Music used to be the most kind of valuable thing of a band, and now it's the least valuable, or at least it's a thing that people don't value themselves intrinsically, which is nice. Which is the reason why it's nice that vinyl has come back, and still people are still buying CDs and tapes, and I think there's an appetite for people to actually own something again, because that gives it value. It's hard to value something when it's a file on your computer, which is why, again, we're very interested in making sure the artwork is as good as it can be, because it complements the music. It's not just a file. It's not just an MP3. It's a piece of art. And I think a lot of people have lost that, and I think I lost that for a time. And I was just, the iPod generation where people are flicking from track to track, and people have lost that kind of ability to sit down and listen to a whole album as it was meant to be heard from start to finish. And I think that's very much true for our band. If you could pick a song out, and it probably wouldn't sound right. It sounds out of context because it's one part of a greater whole. So the whole name your price thing, for me, it was just a practicality thing. Just let them have it, and let them have a good quality version of it, and then trust in people's good nature to hopefully give us 50p or £1 or
Well, especially with the rise of streaming services, it's interesting because I think the major argument against downloading music in the past was that people were taking something and not paying for it, which is theft. But then I think what streaming services have proved is that the vast majority of people don't actually want to own music. I mean, there's still music collectors, and there's still people who value music as you describe it, as an experience. Do you know what I mean? I'm of an age where I remember buying an album. I mean, at my age, it would have been CDs, but it was still kind of a ritualistic experience where you'd open it up and you'd go through the lyrics as you were listening to the album, and the whole thing was, kind of a self-contained experience in and of itself, as opposed to just kind of streaming something which you play in the background as you're doing something else during your day. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's exactly it, isn't it? The people who they'll just stick it on their headphones while they're jogging, and it's an accessory to an experience now. It's not the experience itself. Whereas I grew up with, like you said, I would queue outside HMV record store on the day of release when these amazing albums came out, and then I'd get on the bus on the way home, and I'd open up the CD and I'd be reading the liner notes, and before that I was reading the tape notes, and then I'd wondering, what does this music sound like? Couldn't wait to get home, and I feel really sorry for young people growing up now not experiencing that thrill. And I'm not going to be an old fuddy-duddy about it. I'm not going to say that that digital is here and it's not going to go anywhere. And so that's why I was saying it's practical just to say, well, look, let's just accept it. Some people don't value the music or don't hold the value that we did. So let them have it, but let them have a good quality version of it. The last thing I want is for them to have an awful kind of torrent of the album. I'd rather them have it straight from the horse's mouth. But yeah, it's sad, but it's just the way things are. And like you said, the ritual has gone. It hasn't gone for me. I mean, I've actually made a conscious effort. I've actually cancelled all my Spotify, Apple Music. I don't do it anymore. I don't even have music on my phone now. I have a record player and a CD player and a really nice hi-fi at home. And while I'll sit down in the kitchen and I'll put something on, and I'm actually buying more vinyl and CD than I ever have. That's just a conscious decision. I'm not, but yeah, for me, I want to get back to that kind of connection with the music, because I think I personally lost it for a while.
Do you have any thoughts about Bandcamp as a platform? I know a lot of musicians, especially people who self-release their own music, really like it as a tool. I don't really use Spotify or Apple Music or any of the streaming services, really. Mostly just because I'm very particular about what I want to hear. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not interested in recommendations or the discovery aspect of all these services. Like, when I when I want to listen to a Black Sabbath album, I'll listen to a Black Sabbath album, and when I want to listen to a Slayer album, I'll listen to a Slayer album. Like, I'm not really interested in, an algorithm's idea of what my musical taste is.
I totally agree with you. I mean, I can't stand it. I mean, it comes from Amazon, doesn't it? Back in the day, where Amazon first started, oh, you bought this and other people bought this, and you might like this, and I hate that. It's like someone's looking over your shoulder saying, "Oh, you should be listening to this." And I totally agree with you. I'm not interested in that. I like to find my music my way, organically. And so, yeah, Bandcamp's a good tool. It's been a good tool for unsigned bands and even signed bands, actually. Come to think of it, and obviously, it's thanks to Bandcamp that we probably have the coverage and the fan base that we do, because that's where our music really took off. I remember when we released our first EP, because I didn't really know what I was doing, and I wasn't really interested in social media and stuff. We didn't tell anyone, we didn't share it, we didn't do anything. We didn't no PR campaign, no mailing list, no nothing. And before you knew it, we had 10, 15, 20 really good reviews online, and they just found us on Bandcamp. And I don't know how they found us on Bandcamp, but they did. And it turns out that the stoner, doom, desert kind of band rock music community is quite tight knit, and they've got a good culture of sharing stuff and kind of putting each other onto different things. So Bandcamp's been very beneficial for our band, for sure.
Now, do you have any advice for any other bands or labels who are looking to self-release their own material?
Advice? I mean, it has to come down to the music at the end of the day. I mean, you can spend horrendous amounts of money on artwork and vinyl, PR campaigns, Facebook advertising, Instagram posts and all that, but if your music sucks, then what's the point? I mean, I do see a lot of bands. The issue I have, this sounds bad, I think the scene we're in is in danger of becoming a little bit like what the metal scene became in the early 2000s, where it's kind of a bit of a race to the bottom. There's a lot of bands who are literally recycling the same riffs, the same kind of vocal style, the same drum patterns, the same artwork, the same logos, and it becomes a bit stale. I hope the scene doesn't become too diluted, and my advice would be focus on the music and focus on being yourself, and let your character come through, and let that show in everything you do, in the artwork. Let that show in the lyrics, and let that show in your videos. And I don't really have any advice in terms of how to release stuff, because it's pretty easy these days, really. I mean, if you want to get your stuff on iTunes and Spotify, it's dead easy. Companies like DistroKid, really easy to use. Getting your t-shirts printed up, again, my only advice on that kind of side of thing is just don't skimp on the quality of anything. So don't skimp on the quality of your recording. Make sure it's the best it can be. And same with your merchandise and your artwork. Make everything you want to make people want to give you a couple of quid and value your stuff. So that's my only advice, really. I can't really give advice on anything else.
So in addition to Muramasa, you guys are also working on an acoustic LP.
Yes. So yeah, I mean, obviously we've had the lockdown, and so just primarily myself and Mark, the guitarist, we were just trying to keep ourselves sane because obviously I had to close the studio and just sat there twiddling my thumbs. So we did like a YouTube event. Me and Mark had an idea to maybe try some acoustic versions of a couple of the songs. So we did a couple, and they went down really, really well. We couldn't believe the feedback we got. So we had so many messages from people saying, "Look, I love your music, and I'm not trying to tell you to to soften up, but these acoustic songs, they're amazing. You should make a whole LP out of it." So yeah, we've just been working on a bunch of our existing material and maybe a couple of new ideas. I'm not sure yet. It's not finished yet, but I think probably give it a couple of months, it'll all be done, and we're going to release that on vinyl, I believe, maybe CD, maybe tape. But yeah, as with all the things I do, I don't want to just to release it if it's just a collection of acoustic songs. I want it to kind of feel like it is something, give it a purpose. So until it's kind of a fully rounded concept, I'll sit on it for a bit. But yeah, I think give it till November, we might have something.
Am I understanding this correctly? Did you guys have a contest to name the LP?
Yeah. So we thought it'd be nice because it was the fans that persuaded us to actually do more with this acoustic idea. I mean, we literally had about 30 or 40 emails about it. Because it was their idea for us to do this, we thought it'd be just a nice little thing just to let them pick the name. And there's so many good ideas. But there's one chap who suggested the delicate sound of Thunderhoof, which I love because obviously Delicate Sound of Thunder is the classic Pink Floyd live album. That's just perfect for us. So I think we might go one step further with it and actually try and kind of mimic the original artwork from the Pink Floyd album. I think it might be quite a nice thing to do. But yeah, the Delicate Sound of Thunderhoof is what it's going to be called.
Very cool. The split album between Howling Giant and Sergeant Thunderhoof is called Turn to Stone Chapter 2, and it will be released August 7th by Ripple Music. Tell people what the best way to order this album is.
There's a number of ways. You can get it from Howling Giant's Bandcamp, which I believe is just howlinggiant.bandcamp.com. You can get it from our Bandcamp page, sergeantthunderhoof.bandcamp.com. You can get it from the Ripple Music Bandcamp page. Obviously, it'll be available on iTunes, Spotify, and the like. We have, I think, all the vinyls are sold out, sadly. I think if you go onto Ripple Music's European web store, I think they do have some copies left on there. But all the copies on Bandcamp, I believe, have been sold. We've sold out of all our stock, and I think Howling Giant have sold out of all their stock. But it's still available on CD directly from both bands. And yeah, digitally, it'll be out on August the 7th.
And so I should mention that Ripple will be donating 10% of their digital sales to the UNCF. And if people want to find out more about Sergeant Thunderhoof and if they want to keep up to date on this acoustic LP that you guys are putting together, what's the best way for them to do that?
I mean, obviously, we're on all the social media, Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing, even though I detest it. The best way to keep in contact with us is if you go onto our website, which is sergeantthunderhoof.co.uk. We have our web store on there, but most importantly, we have a mailing list. And I like to do things old school, and we like to send out our news as a mailing list to our fans. And in order to keep our fans happy, we often give them amazing discounts and first refusals on limited edition vinyls, that kind of thing. So yeah, we are quite old school. We have a mailing list, and obviously we have the Bandcamp page as well. But the best way to get in touch with us and keep in touch is sergeantthunderhoof.co.uk and sign up to that mailing list.
Very cool. Is there anything else you want to say?
No, it's been nice talking to you, and it's nice to hear another voice, really, because we've been quite isolated over here. I mean, we're actually in the studio tonight. Our drummer Darren is laying down some drums for another secret project, which I can't reveal at the moment. So this is literally the first time I've seen Darren in about 3 months. So it's nice to have a cup of tea and just see some more humans, because everything's been quite odd. And so obviously things like this and still connecting with the fans, and even the emails have been fantastic. So I just want to say thanks, really.
Is the situation still quite bad where you guys are?
Well, yeah, I mean, the lockdown in England is still a thing. I mean, they've relaxed it in certain areas. I know in northern England, in Manchester, the lockdown has been reinstated because they've had a rise in cases. So yeah, it's been difficult. And I think I mentioned earlier, we've got family members within the band who are in the at-risk category, and which means that they have to remain completely isolated, which has stopped the band from really kind of meeting up in the same room. So everything's been, for the past 3 or 4 months, we've been kind of seeing one another sporadically here and there, but we haven't actually been in a room making noise. So it has been quite bad. And like I said, my business has been suffering because of it, but fingers crossed things are starting to get back to normal for everyone.